Every business has an ambition. PayPal Open is the platform designed to help you grow into yours. With business loans so you can expand and access to hundreds of millions of PayPal customers worldwide. And your customers can pay all the ways they want with PayPal, Venmo, Pay Later, and all major cards, so you can focus on scaling up. When it's time to get growing, there's one platform for all business. PayPal Open. Grow today at paypalopen.com. Loans subject to approval in available locations.
I earned my degree online at Arizona State University. I chose to get my degree at ASU because I knew that I'd get a quality education, they were recognized for excellence, and that I would be prepared for the workforce upon graduating. To be associated with ASU, both as a student and alum, it makes me extremely proud, and having experienced the program, I know now that I'm set up for success. Learn more at asuonline.asu.edu.
I thank you very much for tuning in to That Will Never Work podcast. See, if marketing feels like a mystery, well, you're not alone. But what if the problem isn't your content or your budget, but maybe it is your approach? Today, I have John Watson, who's going to join me to uncover why so many people struggle with marketing, and maybe we'll find out how to fix it. We'll talk about it right after this.
Educate, empower, enable, impact. Thank you for tuning in to That Will Never Work, an award-winning podcast where we share inspiring information and personal experiences related to business and the entrepreneurial journey from those who are leaders in their respective field. Now, here's your host, author and business coach, Maurice.
Thank you very much for tuning in today. So, John, why do some businesses seem to effortlessly attract attention, while others, with just as much value, struggle to be seen at all?
Well, that's a really good question. I think there's a lot of different answers to that. Yeah, I don't even know where to start with that one. I think what I find is that I find a lot of times people really struggle with their marketing because they make it about themselves. And instead of, really connecting with people with what's in it for them, right? You can put the same amount of effort into both, and one's going to really, if you connect with somebody about what's in it for them as opposed to what you're trying to tell me about you, makes a huge difference. I would say that's probably the single biggest thing that I run into is when I work with people is it's usually all about them.
So in the beginning, I may not necessarily know who my avatar really is. So all I have is myself. So how do I know who to market to especially if I'm just beginning as an entrepreneur and starting this company?
I think a lot of that comes down to just getting out and talking to people. Right? Before you market, start with sales. Start with interviews even. Right? Do information interviews. Don't be afraid to reach out and talk to people before you have anything at all. Right? That whole market validation process is what it's called. And it's really scary. And that you're calling out of the blue, but I think it's actually easier than a lot of people think because you ask people for help. They're quite often predisposed to say yes, right? Because you're not selling them anything. You're just asking for their input. And people love to talk.
But see, I think there are some people that are quietly, they're introverts. They want to help people, right? But they're introverts and they're scared of speaking and they think they're going to say the wrong thing. So how do I get over something like that if that's part of my challenge?
Well, I'm an introvert myself, and I think I've learned to suck it up and just do it. All joking aside, though, I think it's all really just about having conversations. And introverts are often very good at one-on-one conversations. They just usually struggle with crowds. And so, if you approach it not from a sales point of view, but literally from a learning point of view, I want to do an information interview, get to know you, ask you about your needs, right? What you're using now, what you're struggling with, what you'd like to see in a product like mine, it can be extraordinarily informative. And when you're not approaching it from a pitch perspective or trying to make a sale, right, you can get an enormous amount of information just simply by having a conversation and information gathering conversation. It makes a huge difference, and I find people are quite readily willing to help. I've not found a great deal of resistance in the process.
But sometimes we have that moment of anxiety, especially if we don't like to speak in front of people. We want to hurry up and sell you as fast as we can so we can get out of there as fast as we can, right?
Sure.
So how do we slow it down just a little bit in that type of scenario?
You ask permission. It's really as simple as asking permission.
Hmm.
Say, I'm so and so. I'm calling because I'm just starting up, and I'm really looking for some feedback from people that I think would be really well qualified clients.
Mm-hmm.
And as a startup, I really don't understand my avatar particularly well. I think I do, but I'm most likely wrong. Right. So you can really start from a one down position and not shine them on too much, but acknowledge the value that they will contribute. And, it really is overcoming that urge to sell that's in most people's way. And I would say that's true long into the startup process.
Right. And I ask that because a lot of times that's where you hear from coaches and everybody else, sell, 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 right? You have to sell 10 times just to make one sale, right? So, or pitch 10 times to get one. So if that's the case, but I don't know how to really put myself out there, how do I get over that? Because that's something that people talk about a lot. That's why I asked about slowing down a little bit. Like, how can you slow down if you're telling me to push myself out there and get over the situation, whatever that might be?
Part of that is the definition of sales, right? When people say, get out there and sell, 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 that doesn't mean go pitch, pitch, pitch.
Right.
Right? They meant pitch, pitch, pitch. They would have said that. Right? Sell, sell, sell is get out there, get over your resistance, get over your story about not wanting to do it, but then engage in conversations. I mean, it obviously depends on the kind of product you have, right? But in my world, I deal predominantly in solution selling, and it's all about listening. And what you're really trying to, in my experience, even when you're selling consumer products, it's about listening. If you have an opportunity to talk to somebody, you can really understand what it is that they're looking to accomplish, right? Or what they're trying to avoid, and engage them in the conversation about why. And again, instead of pitching what we got, it's like, well, what are you trying to accomplish? What's the goal here, right? And what are your criteria? And ask them how you can help them make a yes decision, right? And again, it's just this urge to pitch, right? We want the sale so bad, particularly when we're getting started up. It overwhelms all of our other senses.
Right.
Right. And we it takes effort to slow it down and listen. And not just listen, but active listen. Right. Be prepared with really good questions, right? That dig into their goals and objectives, right? Or their fears or their concerns or their budget or whatever. Right. But I'll get them talking, and then you don't have to.
So, all right. So I'm in a position where I think that my marketing should be 100% social media. Is that a great strategy, especially since I don't like to talk to people?
Well, social media, you can ask questions on social media too. You can post surveys. You can incentivize surveys and get people contests, give giveaways, do stuff that invites feedback, right? And you can totally get feedback from social media, right? We're so used to trying to get attention, right? And trying to make it sexy and sell. And there's this whole other side that people forget. Listening is actually very powerful. In fact, it's even more powerful than speaking. And it's not what we do. It doesn't come natural. It takes, and you have to unlearn all that sort of pitch stuff, right? And it has its place, but learn, you can have two sets of skills.
And I think when we take a look at those people that are perceived as successful, they talk a lot. right? They're always in our face, no matter what the situation might be. Some sponsor ads on social media. I'm going to their conferences, so they're always speaking, and so that's what I see when I look out there across the board. I don't care what industry it might be. So how do I overcome that? If you're saying, hey, I need to listen. I have 2 ears, only one mouth. So how do I overcome that? When I see everybody else talking all the time.
What's interesting about that is marketing. I break marketing down into 20 steps.
Mm-hmm.
And what you're talking about is the speaking part is the last of those steps, right? I call that step being conspicuous, right? And that's the part where you got all your ducks in a row and everything's in place and you're out there promoting,
mm-hmm.
right? The promotional part assumes you have all the system in place to take advantage of that promotion. Right? And people start with that without any of the steps in place to benefit from that promotion. Really, the promotion is just about awareness.
Mm-hmm.
I'm creating awareness, I'm putting it out there, and the assumption is that awareness generates sales,
mm-hmm.
right? And it's part of the equation. But awareness by itself is really just awareness and perhaps interest and maybe even preference a little,
mm-hmm.
right? But that's fine if you're a consumer product and you're going to be selling it in a store,
mm-hmm.
right? But it's like people just mistakenly assume that more awareness, more pitching again,
mm-hmm.
generates sales, and its job is to generate awareness and pique interest, right? And the rest of it, there's a whole bunch of other steps.
Mm-hmm. And I think you named one.
I think part of that is just, we all want it to be what it isn't.
Right. Right. And I think there's something that you mentioned that sometimes we don't take enough time in it, which is understanding the system, right? What is that customer journey? Again, that part of making the customer the hero in their journey, right? So how do we make sure that we have that system in place before we start making people aware of what we have?
Well, that's part of the part. I mean, the whole systems conversation, really, that customer journey that you talked about, is we have to get over ourselves
mm-hmm.
to start with,
mm-hmm.
right? Because we talk about the sales process. What am I going to do to get you to buy or to facilitate a sale? And flipping it over into how do I facilitate the customer's journey through my business?
Mm-hmm.
Is a big shift, right? I mean, that's a big aha for a lot of folks.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't know who your avatar is and you don't understand their needs and you're not really thinking about them, it's pretty hard to put that together, right? And so it does take a big pause. It takes a shift in your thinking and say, wow, I'm going to turn this whole paradigm on its ear and really think this through from a customer's perspective. And we're
mm-hmm.
right back into that whole listening mode.
Mm-hmm.
Until you understand it. And then it becomes just, all right, well, this is actually not that hard. It's a sequence that they're following just like I am.
Mm-hmm.
They're just parallel to each other. And you just have to flip the script.
So I just use a term of making the customer the hero. Again, you hear about that too. So what does that actually mean, John? How can I make them the hero, especially if I haven't done the research that you're referring to? I don't know that. So how do I make them the hero up front, or is that even possible?
Well, I mean, I think a lot of the old school ads were all about making somebody the hero, right? It's like, gets the girl, gets the car gets the girl. It's all about sort of, you're going to be the hero if you buy this product, right? That's
mm-hmm.
part of it,
mm-hmm.
right? But the hero's journey really is their journey of getting what they want, right?
Mm-hmm.
And really all you're trying to do is facilitate their success. People buy things generally to avoid problems or to achieve something,
mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so really you're sort of joining them in their quest to achieve what it is they want to achieve, right? And that could be getting out in the woods, right? It could be
mm-hmm.
go camping, it's freedom, it's it's the girl, it's the vacation, it's the outcome that they
right.
want, right? And whatever that outcome is, you can let your mind wander. There's a whole bunch of kind of outcomes that people buy stuff for.
Right.
And and rather than pitching what you have, it's about helping them achieve the objective. Why are they buying this? Why are they so excited about it in the first place?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's just, again, it's the same shift.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's really just parking our own agenda long enough to appreciate somebody else's needs and goals, and how do we facilitate them through to that outcome. And of course, then we get paid.
Right. That's our outcome, right? Our desired outcome. But when we think about marketing, right? What is it really? Is it only just a logo and flyer? Like what would be
I think
marketing?
that's the biggest problem right there is
Mm-hmm.
we all see consumer products marketing. It's all around us.
Mm-hmm.
That whole Procter and Gamble model is old school, but alive and well. And the funny thing is most of us operate businesses that don't operate that way at all.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So we're modeling our marketing after a completely different business model that doesn't actually align at all with ours. And wondering why it doesn't work.
Every business has an ambition. PayPal Open is the platform designed to help you grow into yours. With business loans so you can expand and access to hundreds of millions of PayPal customers worldwide. And your customers can pay all the ways they want with PayPal, Venmo, Pay Later, and all major cards, so you can focus on scaling up. When it's time to get growing, there's one platform for all business. PayPal Open. Grow today at paypalopen.com. Loans subject to approval in available locations.
And I think it's just because we're immersed in it, right? How many marketing advertising messages do we see every single day?
Right.
Right. We can't really saturated by it. And to think that so we immediately assume that that's marketing, and it's not even marketing at all. It's advertising.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And we sort of describe, we say marketing, but what we mean is advertising or promotion. And so we really need to park that and say, wait, what does actually marketing mean? Right. And marketing is not the same as promotion at all. Marketing is the process of putting the system in place to benefit from all the promotional activities. And yet we don't treat it that way. We sort of, the marketing is almost a useless word. I really try hard not to even use it. Right. I try to use business development or business growth or something that takes the emphasis away from promotion, because people just immediately go to websites and social media and all this stuff, promotional stuff. And then they pitch. And instead of putting a system in place that facilitates the users, an easy, friction-free process of buying whatever it is they really want anyways. And, in many ways, we make it so difficult to sell for anybody to buy what we have. That's usually the bigger problem, is we make it hard to find us, hard to buy from us, hard to understand us, right? Annoying because we're pitching all the time, and we're not actually speaking to their needs. And so we have all these roadblocks all over the place to try to prevent the sale almost, right? And so it really is realizing that all these things we're doing that we think are helping us are actually mostly hindering us. And it's often because of how we perceive marketing. We call marketing, we call advertising marketing, as opposed to realizing that there's more to it than just advertising. So, it's really a perception problem. I think the biggest thing with marketing is people just don't know what it is. And what's interesting in it, and that's not a criticism of anybody, because if you go and look at the marketing community, ask every marketer to describe marketing, they'll sell it. You ask 100 people, you get 100 different answers. Right? There was one woman who compiled. She did this as a research project. She compiled 8 pages of different definitions from professional marketers that were completely different. 8 pages of these, like really long list of completely different definitions. So that's why I always think marketing is an absolutely useless term, because it doesn't mean anything, right? When it means something different to everybody, then it actually doesn't mean anything, right?
Right. Wow. And you used a word earlier called friction, right? You said friction. And I'm like, wow, John, like you're really causing this friction between these two words, because people use them so interchangeably. And like you're stating, like they don't really know what the difference really is. Because that's what you hear. You don't like when you think of advertising, like I'm going to tell you just based off of my own journey in business, some people think of advertising only being billboards, right? Maybe radio, I mean, I'm 49, so I'm gonna say radio, not podcasting.
I got you.
So and then when they start going to this social media piece, and then they're like, all right, well, this is marketing. I need more flyers or whatever it is, and that's part of their marketing budget. But like you stated, like again, the definition is so vague to so many different people. How do you narrow
Part
it
of the
down?
problem too is we're just sold all the time, right? It's
Right.
anybody who's doing so-called doing marketing, chances are they're selling a tactic,
Mm-hmm.
right? Some sort of promotional tactic, and that's all they know, so that's what they're selling.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a hammer, everybody's a nail, right? It's like everybody looks like a nail, and so so often as business owners, a business owner who doesn't really understand the process, and we're being sold constantly by salespeople who are making a living only by selling us stuff, so they
Mm-hmm.
have to sell us what they have,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we can't blame them,
Mm-hmm.
but we're sort of hear them as consultants and advisors, as opposed to realizing that they're salespeople and they're just selling us what they have,
Right.
right? And so when you have me not knowing what I'm doing as a business owner because I really don't understand marketing or sales, I'm not saying everybody, but
Right.
certainly when I started, I didn't understand, and all I got was pitched. I was super eager to get help. I knew I was ignorant,
Mm.
right? And I was naive, didn't understand. And I was like, okay, well, I'm naive and didn't understand. So I was seeking help. And all I got was sales pitch, sales pitch, sales pitch, sales pitch. I'm like, I want help. I don't want to get sold.
Right.
And try to find help is really hard.
Yeah.
Getting sold is real easy. So the point I'm trying to make is we say yes a lot. We assume that these salespeople are advisors.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know any better. So we go, oh, that sounds cool. I can afford that. Right? Let's try it.
Mm-hmm.
And all you've really done is, I don't know really what it is. I don't know how it works. I don't know what success looks like.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm now advertising or marketing, right?
Yeah.
And we hoping for the best is, I always joke that hope is a great, girl's name, right? Yeah, but it's an awful strategy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And yet that's fundamentally what we see is people hoping for the best or doing what they're told by their so-called advisors, with salespeople, and then after a few months or more go by, they're like, well, I've been trying this for a year, right? You told me it's
Yeah.
going to take time. I've given it time. It's not working. I don't understand the reports you're giving me.
Mm-hmm.
I never really understood what it was in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I'm out all kinds of cash, and I've got nothing really apart, from it, except for a negative experience. And now I'm distrustful
Right.
of marketing folks.
Right.
Right. And it's just perpetual process. I tend to get people after they've, blown their brains out trying all kinds of different things. And then they come to me and go, what am I doing wrong? I said, well, first off, you don't know what you want.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You don't even know what success looks like.
Mm-hmm.
You're trying to achieve an unknown because you haven't even defined what it is you're actually trying to accomplish.
Mm.
You just sort of try this, hoping that somehow miraculously that's going to give you success.
Right.
And so what I try to do is get people to say, look, stop passing the buck and hoping that these folks are going to actually understand your business, which is completely unrealistic. How are they supposed to know about your business?
Mm-hmm.
Right? They don't ask, you don't tell. And somehow miraculously we're supposed to understand each other and they're giving you good advice.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a real mistake. And what we really need to do is own it. We don't have to become experts, but we have to understand the process, and we have to understand what we need in what kind of logical order, and don't accept pitches. Only accept legitimate help. And that way you do that is by knowing what you need.
Mm.
Wow.
Wow.
You don't have to know how to do it all, but you do have to know what you need.
Wow. John, you said a whole mouthful, bro. I mean, you did. And I appreciate you coming on the show and sharing, and you said that, there's this 20-step process. The last part is the part that we all see, but those other steps. So if someone wanted to understand what those other parts are, those other steps are, and really understanding what it means to advertise and or market, understand the difference, where can they reach out to you and find that information?
Well, I mean, I've been doing this now for going on, more than 30 years actually, but I get so tired of this, experiencing it myself, right? And then also with my clients, I actually wrote a book called Being Profitable. And it really is designed specifically for small business owners who want to understand what the process looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it's not a how-to book. It's a what the heck does this process look like? What are the steps involved? And what do I do? Like, can I even understand what's happening in each of these steps? Why am I doing it? Right? Why this order? And really, and so the whole idea is that they by breaking it down to a bunch of steps and saying, look, this is a logical sequence. You don't have to follow it, absolutely. But do kind of look at it 2 or 3 steps at a time, understand what it's all about, and be able to ask good questions, right? Because you don't, like I said, you don't need to know the answer. What you need is the right question, right? So if I say, look, I don't know how to do it, but I do know what question I know what problem I'm trying to solve, right? And if you ask people to help you solve a problem and they start pitching you a product, you realize then you send a disconnect. You see the disconnect. Because they're not actually engaging in the problem solving. They're just pitching whatever they're pitching. And if they, and that's a big clue to go talk to somebody else. and that's, so what I always try to train people to do or encourage them to do is learn what questions to ask. Right. And really watch for the pitch. Right. And if somebody's not able to engage you in answering your question in a really thoughtful, helpful way, you're talking to the wrong person. Right. And I always try to get people to say, look, get your people involved, right? Again, there's so many things to know, right? Marketing's an enormous topic.
Right.
And you can't possibly, as almost anybody, you can't know it all. Right. And so when you invite the conversation and say, look, I know where I'm at in my process. I know I need this. I don't fully understand it, but I need somebody to help me through this step. Right. Here's my stuff. Here's what my goals are. Here's the business constraints. Here's the budget that I'm working with. Right. Share. It's like, here's the reality. Right. And I need this to happen.
Right.
I don't know how to do it. Right. How do I make this happen? Right, is as context into these other 20 steps, right? I'm here and I'm headed here, right? So help me get this piece working so I can move to the next one, right? And know where the end goal is. Stephen Covey's always said, start with the end in mind, right? And I think that's a huge, valuable statement, right? Is what is the goal? This is the journey that I'm on to get to that goal. I'm here. I'm lost, but I know I'm here.
Right.
Right. What do I do? And if you invite conversation and really, weed the people out who are just pitching their ideas, you'll find the whole process of marketing changes, right? Because you're keeping ownership. You're not trying to become all things to all people, and you're inviting all kinds of feedback and input. Changes the entire process. And I think it's just that ownership piece, right? Instead of hoping for the best and delegating it or abdicating it off to somebody else, I'm saying, no, it's mine. I own it. I don't have to become an expert. I don't want to become an expert. And I'm going to enroll a community around me of people that actually want to help me. And you'll find the whole experience of growing your business will change pretty dramatically.
Wow. So where can somebody find the book?
So, it's on Amazon. It's called Being Profitable. And you can find it on my website as well, which is accruemarketing.com. And there's a whole bunch of free ebooks there as well. I'm a big fan of throwing information out there for people to help themselves. And what people typically do is they get the big aha and they go, "Oh my God, this actually makes sense." But I still know how to do it. But but the process makes sense. Now I at least know what I'm doing wrong. And which is a fantastic starting point, right? And then it's just a matter of ask for help,
right?
Not a sale,
right? Well, for those of you that are listening, of course, if you're a fan of the show, the link for this book will be in the show notes, along with all his other information. But the book is on Amazon, You could get a Kindle, a hardcover, or a paperback. So it's all right here. So whatever your heart content is, you can have it. So, but John, thank you very much for coming on the show today.
Well, hey, thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Sure, no problem. But John, before we go, man, I got to ask you my world famous question. I ask everybody this question. And feel free to use your imagination. Think outside the box. I asked this question, my would you rather question. So, John, would you rather choose 3 doors or a fork in the road?
Interesting. Probably the fork in the road.
And why the fork?
I don't know. I like the journey. I guess for me, I'm not looking for the prize. I'm looking for a road less traveled.
Okay. Cool. Nice and simple, to the point. But I thank you very much for coming on today, John.
Thank you again.
Sure,
Pleasure.
Thank you. And thank you all very much for listening to That Will Never Work podcast. And I'll talk to you just a little bit later.
Thanks for listening. Follow Maurice Chism on social media to stay connected and check back weekly for new episodes. Until next time, that will never work. Or will it?
That was good, Maurice. I like the energy.
Every business has an ambition. PayPal Open is the platform designed to help you grow into yours. With business loans so you can expand and access to hundreds of millions of PayPal customers worldwide. And your customers can pay all the ways they want with PayPal, Venmo, Pay Later, and all major cards, so you can focus on scaling up. When it's time to get growing, there's one platform for all business. PayPal Open. Grow today at paypalopen.com. Loans subject to approval in available locations.